What is good, man? It's your boy, Will Convention with reaction. I'm doing. Yeah, nigga, I'm doing a reaction video on one to horror stories. That's true. Yeah, said it. I'm gonna get to it, man. Like, come subscribe me. Let me know how you feeling right now. And let's get to it. You know what?
I've always liked winter mornings. Something about the way the cold air bites at your skin feels
I don't like
refreshing.
that.
It
I don't
clears
want
your
that at
head
all.
like nothing else.
No,
I
it doesn't.
usually jogged early, before the sun rose, when the streets were empty and the world felt like mine alone. That morning wasn't any different. At least,
Okay.
that's what I thought when I laced up my sneakers and stepped out the door. The air was biting cold, with a thick, clinging fog in the otherwise dimly lit street. The street lights flickered every now and then, casting faint pools of light that barely cut
You feel the bug, man. No, I ain't gonna say anything.
through the haze, but I didn't mind. The
I ain't gonna
silence
say
was
anything.
peaceful, the world was still asleep, and I liked it that way. I started my run, feeling the rhythmic thud of my feet against the pavement. My breath came out in little clouds, puffing in front of me like smoke signals. Everything felt so serene. Empty streets, quiet houses, just me, the cold.
Yo, why she run like that?
After about 10 minutes, I reached the park. It's usually busy during the day, but now it was deserted. Not a soul in sight.
Outside.
I'd figured I'd do 3 laps around it and
God,
head home before the chill really set in.
Anything.
The first lap was fine, but halfway through the second, I started to feel off. It wasn't immediate, just a creeping sense of unease. Like the air had grown heavier, the silence became more oppressive. I found myself glancing over my shoulder, expecting to see someone there. But every time I looked back, all I saw was the fog, thick and impenetrable.
Maybe that's a sign someone's telling you to go home. Don't be outside.
Worse. My skin prickled, my heartbeat quickened, and I kept thinking I heard faint footsteps behind me. I'd stop and turn, scanning the park, but there was no one. Just the low groan of trees swaying in the cold wind.
Stop.
And right then and there, I would just start taking off home. Full speed.
Hallucinating, Lizzie.
I told myself,
Lizzie, you're not hallucinating.
Maybe the fog was playing tricks on me.
Nigga, you need to get out of
here.
That was what you need to do.
But deep down,
I
I knew something was wrong. I decided to take a break. I plopped myself on one of the benches by the playground to catch my breath. As soon as I sat down, I heard it, rustling, like someone stepping on dry leaves. My pulse spiked, and I shot up, eyes darting around.
Don't say hello.
Is anyone there?
I called out, my voice sounding small and shaky. No answer. I scanned the area, trying to focus, but the fog was too thick. It was like trying to see through a wall of smoke. And then I heard it.
That's when I started taking off.
So sharp it made my skin crawl.
Who's there?
My voice was more desperate now, but still.
What? What do you mean who's there?
The eerie faint laughter, closer this time. And then she stepped out from the fog.
Oh, is that a crackhead?
Tall and gaunt, her red hair matted and hanging in limp strands
around
her face. She was wearing a torn white nightgown, stained with crimson, awfully resembling blood.
Oh,
my eyes slowly traced upwards until I met her bloodshot one. Her eyes. God, her eyes. They were wide, wild, smeared with mascara like she'd been crying for hours. I froze.
That's a demon.
My breath caught in my throat.
See?
The woman's lips curled into a smile, but there was nothing kind about it. It was the kind of smile that sent chills down your spine, the kind of smile that made you want to run. And then I saw
why
her
ain't you
hand.
running?
She was clutching something.
Oh, what is that? Oh, she killed somebody.
There was blood dripping from it, staining the snow at her feet and dangling from
and you're still standing there.
Wedding ring.
Like what?
My stomach turned. I felt bile rise in my throat. I took a step back and stumbled to the ground. A woman.
Watch, like, how did you? What is that for? Like, come on, man. This is the wrong time. Like, come on.
Let out a hollow laugh.
Now he's single.
She said,
now he's
shoving
single.
the finger in the air. Her
Did she
tone
throw
was
it at you?
mocking, almost gleeful.
He doesn't have to hide his affair from me anymore.
Oh,
Before
she
I
killed her
could even
nigga.
process what she had said, her eyes rolled back into her head, and she
Oh.
collapsed on the ground right beside me. For a moment, I
Oh,
couldn't move,
no.
couldn't think. My
I
mind was
would've.
blank, overwhelmed
Look,
by a
man,
flood
nah,
of
man, you gotta get
horror.
up and move,
And then
man. You can't just be
somehow,
sitting
I
there.
snapped out of it. My hands fumbled for my phone as I
911?
shakily dialed 911. The cops arrived within minutes. That
You
almost felt
stood
like
there?
hours.
You
They
stood.
took the woman away,
That's
but
crazy.
not before telling me the truth. Sophia was an artist who had killed her husband while he slept. She was
Okay.
somehow convinced he was having an affair with his secretary.
Oh,
Afterwards,
wow.
she cut off his ring finger and
Oh.
wandered the streets in a daze. I was later told that Sophia was sent to a mental institution.
Ew.
She never spoke a word again after that night. And me?
Ew.
I haven't jogged in the early morning since. Not ever.
I mean, you kind of asked for it. Like, get jogging your hill stuff.
It was supposed to be a
Something's
quiet
like 10 to
getaway.
go, like,
Steven
should've
and I
left.
needed a break from everything. Work, family, the city. So we rented an Airbnb in the woods, a cozy cabin deep in the middle of nowhere. It was
Sounds
winter,
nice.
and the world around
Sounds
us
nice,
was
I ain't gonna
draped
lie.
in snow, making it feel like we were completely isolated from everything else.
Uh-huh.
Exactly what we wanted. We arrived at around sunset. The cabin was adorable, with a creaky wooden deck, and inside, a stone fireplace already laid out with logs.
Look,
By the time we unpacked and settled in, it
I
was
ain't gonna lie, with stuff like this, it's best to do your research. I'm just saying. Locate it. Do your research in the area. Have anything happen, nigga, do research. Man. Don't just.
dark outside. We
How did
opened
this,
a
how did
bottle
this,
of red
you know what I
wine.
mean?
After a few
How did this
glasses,
become pretty?
Steven
Wait, no.
suggested we
Wait,
explore
no.
the property. There
Talk.
was supposed to be a small clearing behind the cabin, so
Mhm.
we bundled up and trudged out into the cold.
Yo,
We
went
were
outside.
tipsy, walking haphazardly and
Tipsy
giggling.
and outside.
We soon stumbled upon a small mound, partially
Oh,
hidden in
great, sorry.
snow,
Oh,
near the
man.
edge of the woods.
Not great side.
Strange. There was a
Oh.
stone marker, like a headstone of a grave, but there was no name, just a weird symbol. It looked like two interlocking circles, with a serpent twisting between them.
Ooh,
Steven knelt down to
no.
brush off the snow, laughing. He was always the
Oh,
braver
no.
one between us, always curious.
It's a grave, right?
Yes, what
Maybe
else
it's
is it?
someone's pet.
No. I don't know what it is.
No
It can't be
name.
no pet.
Could be anything. He was drunk and in his ridiculous
He
state,
pissed on
he
it?
unzipped his pants and started
Oh,
peeing on it,
you
laughing all the while.
disrespectful, nigga. Hey, whatever comes for you, I hope it comes for you. Oh, man. You
Flaunted
disrespectful.
him, telling him he was
Like,
being disrespectful.
no,
but he
that's
just waved
very
me off,
disrespectful.
laughing as he finished.
I ain't gonna lie, I hope it
uneasy.
gets you.
Something about that grave unsettled me, but I was too tipsy to really process it. So we headed
That
back
nigga
to the cabin,
disrespectful.
stumbling and laughing. That night,
That
I
nigga
woke up to a strange
disrespectful.
sound. It was like scratching, the kind
What?
of sharp, repetitive noise that made my skin crawl. I reached over.
Oh,
but
they
Steven
got him.
wasn't in bed.
They
My
got
heart
him.
skipped a beat, and I sat
They
up.
got him.
The
Hey, you
scratching,
deserved it.
It was coming
You
from
deserved it.
outside.
You
I pulled
deserved
on
it.
my coat, my hands trembling as I opened the door. I saw Steven standing
And I
in
would
the
have
snow,
closed it right back.
staring out into the
I
woods.
probably would have said, hello,
motionless.
hello.
His
You
breath
good,
was
man?
visible in the air, and I could hear that scratching sound, louder, like
Oh.
nails on
Oh.
stone.
Stefan, what are you doing?
He
Ooh.
didn't answer. The scratching grew louder, a horrible
Mhm.
grating noise that made me feel like I was losing my mind. It wants to come out. His
What
voice
wants
was
to come
flat,
out?
almost distant, like he was in some kind of
What wants to
trance.
come out?
I grabbed his arm, trying to shake him out of
Ooh.
it.
Come back right now. Something isn't
Yeah.
right.
The grave.
Obviously,
It
something
wants to
isn't
come
right.
out. He pulled away from
Oh,
me
nigga,
and ran towards the grave.
that nigga, yeah,
I
that nigga
followed
is
him,
tough.
the snow
Oh!
stinging my face as I stumbled after him. He dropped to his knees, clawing at the
Oh,
snow,
no.
his hands bare as he dug into
Oh,
the
no.
frozen ground.
Stop it.
Oh, no.
Stefan, stop.
I tried to pull him away, but he
Uh-uh.
was stronger
Clearly,
than I'd
it's not
ever seen
him.
him. His nails were breaking, his fingers
Oh.
red and raw as he tore at the snow like he was
Oh, no.
possessed. And then I saw it. A fox.
And that's when
emerging
I
from the
would've
woods.
then took
Its
off.
eyes glowed in the
Like,
dark,
come on,
an
man.
unnatural eerie light that made my stomach twist. It watched us, its gaze fixed on
Yeah.
Steven. But when it came out, I was shocked. It wasn't red, but black. Finally, Steven stopped. He looked up at me, his eyes wide and unfocused. I pulled him to his feet and we started back towards the cabin, my heart pounding in my chest. As we reached the deck, a deep growl echoed from the direction of the grave, low and guttural. I turned, and there was the fox, sitting atop the mound, its eyes still glowing, its body curled up like it was guarding something.
You gotta do it, man. You gotta do it.
Collapsed onto the bed, and I watched him until his breathing evened out, his face relaxed. I couldn't sleep. I just sat there, staring at the window. The next morning, Steven acted like nothing had happened. He didn't remember a
He was
thing.
possessed,
I
that's
showed
why.
him his hands, expecting the torn nails, the bloody fingertips, but they were fine, perfectly fine. He laughed it off, said I must have been dreaming, but I knew what I saw. I knew what I heard.
That would have been my last time hanging with you, man. I ain't gonna lie.
Out of there as fast as possible.
Shoot, boy.
Steven was humming to himself as he loaded the bags in the car, completely unfazed. But as he put his hand on the steering wheel, a jolt ran through me. There, just under his wrist, was a small scar. The shape of two interlocking circles with a serpent twisted between them.
That would have been my last time hanging with him. Real.
Stefan?
What? You
Where
told
did you
him?
get this?
He had no answer.
It's the same symbol as
You
the
better
grave.
speak! You better
What
speak!
grave?
The one we
Speak
saw
what grave?
yesterday.
But he just looked confused. When I insisted, he pulled me by my hand and took me to the place of the grave. But to my shock, when we reached there was nothing. I felt a chill run through me, a deep, gnawing fear that settled in my bones. I did not care to investigate and pulled Steven to the car, driving away. But I am
that's the best thing
that
to
we
do.
disturbed an otherworldly presence that day.
Look, okay.
The snow had been falling heavily all afternoon, turning the rugged trail into a winding sheet of white. My friend John and I had been trekking for hours. We were deep in a forest far off the usual hiking routes, a place which was only known for its grim history. An unfortunate accident during Civil War transpired there. A unit of Confederate infantrymen were stationed there when their gunpowder caches caught fire. Many soldiers were blown up and cried in agony for hours before dying. Rumors were that you could still hear their screams in those lands.
I want to explore that?
Like what? And the sky darkened. We set up camp near a steep cliff. The wind howled through the branches, sounding almost like voices. We didn't say much as we ate, but there was something in the air that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I brushed it off. Just nerves, I told myself. This place feels off, doesn't it?
I want to stay there.
Trying to read his face. His voice was flat, but his eyes had the same weary look I'd been feeling all day. Yeah, I admitted. It's like the air's too heavy or something.
I can't do that. I can't. No.
Or maybe
I cannot do that. I can't.
We both tried to laugh, but it fell flat. Something wasn't right. As night fell, I found myself staring into the darkness.
Let me tell you something. When something doesn't feel right, or something's telling you, like, when something's really, really telling you something doesn't feel right, that's a sign for you to leave or stop doing it. You need to get up out of there. You need to leave. Don't sit there like, let me just shut it off. No. You're feeling that way for a reason, man. You better deal. That was on.
Waiting for
what? Out of there, man.
I didn't know, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't alone. Eventually, exhaustion took over, and I must have fallen asleep. But sometime in the middle of the night, I woke up with a start. My body jolted awake like someone had shaken me. The tent was freezing. The fire outside had long since died, and John was still snoring softly beside me. That's when I heard it. Footsteps. Not faint, distant ones like before, but deliberate, crunching through the snow right outside the tent. I heard a soft scratching sound, not like an animal. No, this was different, like fingers trailing along the side of the tent.
Oh no!
I
Don't get the flashlight.
The beam
Don't get the flashlight, bro.
At the
you dumb idiot! I would have never done that, bro. No, because what a flashlight gonna do? You gonna flash him to death? He already dead, nigga. Like,
Brick. Nothing. But the scratching continued as soon as I turned it off. Low,
oh,
methodical. I didn't dare move. Suddenly,
oh,
there
what is
was
it?
a loud thud against the side of the tent, like something or someone had slammed into it. I
Damn.
jumped, my flashlight slipping from my grasp. What the hell was that? John
Shh.
was awake,
Shush.
wide-eyed and
Don't
pale.
say anything,
Before
man.
I could answer, the thudding came again.
Oh,
Harder this time. The entire tent
oh yeah.
shook. I don't know. I
Yeah,
whispered.
whatever it is, I
Let's
want
get
y'all to
out of
leave
here. We grabbed our
fast.
flashlights and unzipped the tent just enough to peek outside. The snow was untouched, pristine, like no one had been there. But the sound,
Oh,
those
wow.
footsteps, the scratching, it had to be real. I could feel it in my gut. I'm getting creeped out, man. Let's just wait it out. I nodded, even though every instinct screamed to run. A few minutes passed in an uneasy silence. Just as I began to drift off again, I felt the sudden
Drift
urgent need to
off.
pee. I didn't want to go outside, but
Nigga, I'm
there
not.
was no way
Hey,
of avoiding it. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped into the biting
uh-uh.
cold.
You
I
tripping.
walked just a few
You
steps from the
tripping,
tent,
man.
finding a spot behind a tree.
Nigga, I've
Just as
been
I was
right
about to
outside the
relieve
tent.
myself,
Oh,
I felt a cold, icy hand on the back of
and
my neck.
that's when I would have. I would have pissed all over. I would have pissed all over that nigga.
I
Like,
froze. It
that
gripped
guy
me
was
hard,
nutted.
pulling me
Oh,
backward. I spun around, the flashlight beam cutting through the night.
oh.
But there was no one there. The
Hey,
snow
that thing
behind
trying
me
to take
was
your booty, bro.
undisturbed, but I knew something strange was there. That's when the beam of my flashlight fell on the ground ahead
Why
of
did
me,
it fall?
where there was a massive crevice, partly hidden by the snow. If I had taken just one more step, I would have plummeted to my death. My
Oh
breath
boy.
caught in my throat. I stumbled back to the tent. I didn't want to wake John. I couldn't
Oh
explain
no.
what had just happened. I just crawled into my sleeping bag,
I
trying to
would.
calm
No.
myself.
No, you tripping.
The next
You
morning,
tripping.
John was pale as a
I'm leaving.
ghost. He wouldn't meet my eyes.
I'm leaving.
I had the weirdest dream last night. I looked at him, my stomach nodding. I was outside the tent, wearing some old soldier's uniform, and I
Yeah?
wasn't me. It felt like I was guarding something, or someone. I stared at him,
Oh
my mouth
no.
dry. Before I could say anything, we both heard it, a
Oh
distant
what?
scream of agony from deep within the trees. We sprang upon our
Oh
feet
no.
and decided to leave the tent
Yo, yeah,
behind,
yeah. Leave the
preparing
tent.
to
Forget the
rush
tent.
away. But
Let's get
just as
out of
we
there, man.
emerged out, we saw clear footprints made by heavy boots,
Oh!
emerging from the forest cover and coming towards the face of our tent.
And that's when I
We
would have
left that
did
place
call,
in a
boy.
hurry.
You
I
better
don't know
go,
what
boy.
it was, but somehow I owe my life to the spirit of some dead Civil War soldier that was probably looking over me.
Um, hey, if you enjoyed that, please let me know in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm